Hello, welcome. I'm Reverend Tomas Garza, and you're watching one of the many, many videos that we've shared together here on A Course in Miracles. We just looked at lesson 350 out of 365, yes, in the last video. And we're approaching the beginning. Wait, I mean the end. Wait a minute, I mean the beginning. You do see where I'm going with that. Once you reach the end of the workbook, it's not over. Where do you go from there? Well, we'll visit that very question in another video, or in fact, a series of those. Because it's a really good question. What's very clear is it's not over at that point, happily, right? Happily, unless you happen to be completely awakened and absorbed into the heart of God, which could happen for you in the next 15 minutes. However, if it doesn't, please don't be sorely disappointed, right? We're all on a journey. We're all on a path. And here today, we arrive at the 14th and final question, by the way, in part 2 of the workbook. The last 5 lessons here, lessons 361 to 365 in the workbook, are a little bit different. They look differently and we'll approach them differently. But as you recall, we've been going through a number of questions, such as what is the ego? What are miracles? Right? Those types of things. And then we've had 10 ideas, 10 lessons that piggybacked on that main question, that approached that main question from all of the different angles that Jesus chose for us to look at on a given day, so that we get the message of love, of peace, again and again in different ways, so that each and every one of us, when we're so willing, can get it and begin to take action on it. So the 14th and final question that we're going to consider today, before we jump into lesson 351 in the next video, is this one. What am I? What am I? You could choose to replace what with who and say, who am I? What am I? Who am I? Well, because I look to be this substance, 80% water. Isn't that interesting that we identify with an organism that's 80% water, and if our spirit were to leave it behind, it would quickly be eaten. Truth, right? So what am I? This is the essential spiritual question, and there's no surprise in my mind at all, and there's no mistaking that this, of course, would be the question that Jesus posits at the end for us to consider. What am I? Now, the prayer, the italicized prayer that kicks off the description of this, there are 5 paragraphs of commentary here. The first one is a prayer that's italicized, and it's just beautiful. So please read that. It starts off by saying, I am God's son, which should suffice in and of itself. But Jesus goes on in very poetic and gorgeous language, frankly. Language is just a symbol, yes, but this is beautiful. So I invite you to read that. Yeah, I'm God's son, complete and healed and whole. Yes, so what are you? Well, I think you know, don't you? Deep down, we all know. We all know The Son of God means that we're one with God. We're God's creation, God being the author, the creator, the Son being the created. Notice I'm not saying sons, daughters, people, his homies, his peeps. I'm not saying anything like that. The Son of God is one. It's one of the messages of spirituality, no matter what form it takes. Course in Miracles, again, is not the end all be all. It's just one version of what Jesus refers to as the universal curriculum, awakening, which we're all doing. So here in the world, what are you? Pardon me. Well, you're the bringer of salvation. And Jesus tells us this: God's mouthpiece, so to speak. We speak for him, about him, in symbols that people here in the world can understand. Language, YouTube, cameras, microphones, podcasts, social media posts. I do all of that. And, well, why? So I can reach you. That's why you're watching me right now. This is why we do that. Now, are we the bringers of salvation? Well, yes, actually, we are. You may have been raised in a tradition that held out Jesus or Muhammad or someone else as the bringer of salvation. And by that, people mean often the only bringer of salvation. Yet, if the Son of God is one, we are the bringers of salvation. There's no separation of any kind. So we're not, in truth, separate from Jesus. He simply, as he puts it here in the Course, completed his part in time before we did. In time, it was 2,000 years ago, roughly, that he completed his part. And it is incumbent upon us to complete ours. How do we do it? Forgiveness. The only illusion that leads out of suffering. With forgiveness, our part, our function, our role, as we've seen, being completed, then God takes the final step himself. We're absorbed into the heart of God. We then go where we've always been. There's nowhere to go because this is where we've always been, beyond perception, beyond any concepts such as man, woman, human being, beyond anything, any of the ideas and notions that we posit here in the world and that we cling to so desperately, making them real to ourselves. Spiritual practice, as you have seen and now know, is changing your mind. If you have an aversion to the idea of mind training, then call it something else. This is what we're doing. A Course in Miracles is a thought system. We're invited to place all of our thoughts, our entire experience, into our teacher's hands. If you're doing the Course, that can be Jesus, that can be the Holy Spirit, can be both. Remember, there's no separation of any kind. we're invited to give everything, every thought, every action, every period of time here in the world over to our inner teacher. We effectively get out of our own way. And as we show up, as I'm doing right now, as you will do in many different ways today, no matter what you do for work or don't do, you will show up in many different ways today. And when you give everything over to your inner teacher, you can be assured that you'll be directed to respond to all your experience from a place of love. Now it's up to you to voluntarily, of your own free will, choose love. But it doesn't hurt for us to have some divine assistance, does it? We all need a little bit of help on the path. And this is a very important part of leaving your ego to the side, is asking for help, of admitting to yourself, of myself, I can do nothing. I don't know what my own best interest is because I keep fucking up again and again and again and again and again. And I think I'm on the right track. And then, uh-oh, yeah, it happens again. There I go again. Hijo de la chingada. Spanish just kind of came out. I invite you to look that one up. It's slang for effect. That's how we go about life when we're devoted to fear. We continue to get in our own way. And even though we want to, what we call improve or progress, we want to have peace. We want the peace of God deep down. We don't know how to get it. And we don't allow ourselves, this is the important point here, we don't allow ourselves to have access to the means by which we do get the peace of God, which we've never lost, by the way. We allow our inner teacher to do his thing, its thing. Mm-hmm. Now, your inner teacher could be a female figure. In that case, use the pronoun her. I know pronouns are a huge, huge deal in modern society. And what I want to say here is all language is simply symbolic. If there's only oneness, then it doesn't make any difference which set of symbols you use. The Holy Spirit, it's not really a hymn, is it? The voice for God is really, if you want to be super duper technical, it, right? So my point in all this is reality lies beyond language. Truth lies beyond language, and who we are, to come back to the central question today, what am I, who am I? It's beyond all concepts. If God is love, then guess who else is love? So I invite you to read this material. It's beautiful, it's gorgeous, and take this to heart. That's the most important thing, to practice this, to allow truth to be just as it is, to change your mind about who you are, because you're not your advanced degree, happily, right? Then you'd just be an idea represented by a plaque hanging on a wall. I've got 2 of them. It's not who I am. I invite you to consider all of this. And then, as I always do, and will continue to do, I invite you to, in the present moment, start practicing. Practice again. Extend forgiveness again. Then do it again and again and again and again. Encore une fois, again again, 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 until it becomes like breathing. When it does, see what happens. Think you'll like it. Be seeing you.